Hello everybody. Today I had the pleasure of running a one-on-one phone consult with a watcher who contracted me to help them understand how to set up your driver. In other words, how to certify your printer so that you know that it is indeed able to produce a good rendition, near perfect actually, of the standard evaluation image that I always push onto you guys to use in order to test your printer. Now, for you to be able to do this, you have to actually tell the driver, hey, you are in charge of this process. All I am going to do is open up the image in my editor of choice, file, print, or in the case of Lightroom, simply move over to the print module, set up a few things, and then tell it to go ahead and print. No color management from the application. Only the driver is controlling color in this case. And then you will be able to generate results like this. Perfectly neutral. And when you examine these under the proper lighting situation, in other words, a daylight light source that is bright enough to be able to see clearly what it is that you have produced in print, you should be able to say, my printer really did a great job with the standard image, and this is your control. Nothing else out there is better than this. I don't care what image you actually use, this is your best way to start, and this will tell you exactly how well or how bad the printer by itself is performing. Simple. Let's jump over to the screen and I'm going to show you what to do. And we're going to use Lightroom because for me, it is the best editor out there. Yes, I used to use Photoshop, but Photoshop just doesn't quite work with you as a photographer, one that used to maybe work in the darkroom. Come out to the Lightroom. Get it? All right, let's jump over to Lightroom and I will show you how I go about preparing the driver to allow me to then perform this simple test that will tell me once and for all if my printer that I just lovingly installed is able to produce photos by itself without anyone else's help that are as close to perfection as possible. Okay, remember, nothing is perfect, but we can get very close. So let's jump over to the screen right now. All right, we are now in Lightroom, and as you can see, I have imported all of my standard images here. We're going to jump over to the develop module, and this is the one that I mostly use for every single certification of any of my printers. This image is perfect to begin with. As you can see, it fills the complete histogram from white right over here as well, all the way to black. And again, it contains images that are just simply perfect for you to be able to test your printer. Now, one thing about this image is that it will never actually be outlived by any printer that we might see coming around in the future, because this row of test colors right here are all out of gamut. They're out of any printer's ability to be reproduced. So this image is actually going to outdo the performance of just about any printer out there. I don't care what brand it is. I don't care what model it is. This image will outperform any of those printers. And in fact, I don't see anything coming out in the future that will outperform this image. Now, what we are looking for in the results that we get out of the printer is a complete black all the way to white ramp that is very, very gradually reproduced from the blackest black all the way to the brightest white. The same thing here. You should be able to discern all of these very gradual increases in density right here, as well as decreases in density from 254, which is just one hair below just the paper base itself with no ink on your print, all the way to about 243, which is just an extremely light gray tone. This should be perfectly neutral. You should be able to want to eat these strawberries, and then all of these other photographs simply should look normal to you. Here is an array of many subjects, including a color checker passport. You're going to check that out, make sure that it looks correct. All of these little margins are neutral gray, so they should appear neutral gray. The 4 babies, the 4 kids, the young lady. She's probably Hispanic, African American, and 2 Caucasian kids here. Again, this one's a little pinker than this one. Again, look at those kids in the print. Don't look at the image here. Simply open this and don't do anything else to it. Directly go over to the print module. That's all you need to do. Now, let's go ahead and set up the printer driver so that we can proceed to conduct this test that will tell us if the printer is working at its best. In other words, will it be able to reproduce this on paper so that it looks great to our eyes? We're going to proceed by going to the lower left corner here to page setup. And this is simply going to just open the printer driver. And in this case, I have the Pro 1000 chosen. Why not? Properties. We have our quick setup tab. We got our main page setup and maintenance. Now, it is assumed from the very beginning that you have performed a nozzle check to show that 100% of your nozzles are actually firing. You have performed a head alignment and also an internal calibration. And that is all accessible from the Pro 1000's LCD screen. Now, what we want to do is choose a paper that is actually tied to the Canon brand. And in this case, we're going to print on photo paper ProLuster because that's a very common paper. Highest quality and letter size. We don't need anything larger than that. We're going to be feeding the paper from the top feeder. Now, make sure that photo printing is actually activated and not one of the other modes. No borderless either. So we're going to click on color/intensity manual adjustment. Folks, keep track of these steps that I'm going to walk you through. Once you uncheck it, because I already had it set, we're going to go ahead and recheck it. This will open up this next window. Do not worry about any of this stuff. Leave it alone. Don't ever touch this. Matching, and make sure ICM is chosen. And make sure that it is on auto. And also I'm going to set my rendering intent to relative colorimetric because I do not want any of my in-gamut colors to be shifted. We can talk about this in another video, but basically each mode has a different treatment of any out-of-gamut colors that may exist within your image. So relative colorimetric, leave it on auto, and ICM. Okay? And at this point, we can just go ahead and hit OK as well. And we are ready to print this. We're going to simply go to the right side. We're going to undo zoom to fill just in case the image did not quite fit in that particular paper size. All of our margins can be set to 0. We don't have to worry about anything else, but simply come on down here to the bottom. We're going to go to our printer settings and make sure that it is managed by printer. You see this right here? If I click on it, I can actually choose one of the many ICC profiles that I have loaded, but we want the printer to control this image as it is being printed. Make sure that you have managed by printer chosen. Now, because it is a Canon printer, we're going to set our print resolution to 300. That is basically what they call the native resolution of the printer. So the printer expects to have an image that will contain 300 pixels per inch. So regardless of whatever the printer resolution is per inch at this point, this application is going to change it over to 300, which is what the printer wants to see. There will be no reduction of quality whatsoever in doing so. If we were printing on an Epson printer, it would be then set at 360. And you have to do that manually. Now, output sharpening is something that you always apply before you print. You will do your regular sharpening or input sharpening while you are editing, and then you're going to automatically choose one of the settings. I usually leave it at standard. So again, don't worry too much about that. Just simply have this box checked and make sure that if you are printing on a paper that has any degree of gloss, you're going to choose glossy media type or matte. Okay, so in this case, we're choosing to print on ProLuster, so that will be set to glossy. And make sure, again, double check, managed by printer. All you have to do now is hit print. Now, the person that I worked with today over the phone went ahead and proceeded to do this on his Pro 1000, and the results, as he put it, were perfect. So that is all you have to do, folks. That will certify your printer, will tell you if the Pro 1000 by itself can produce that perfect rendition of that image. Okay, this is your goal. Now, of course, now what you have to do next, this is the tricky part, you're going to go over to your monitor and you're going to put it next to your display and make sure that the colors are not shifted. It may look a little bit lighter, it may look a little bit darker, and that's something you can easily adjust through calibration. But the colors have to be dead on, okay? That gray ramp that I showed you right across the image right here has to be neutral on your display as well. There cannot be any kind of difference in tonality. If your display is showing something that appears a little bit more warm in nature, you have to increase your white point while you're calibrating to a higher point. Now, basically, the defaults have always been D65 for monitors, and of course, profiles are handled a little bit different, D50. But anyway, don't worry about that. Just follow this rule. If the image, okay, wait a minute. If this looks perfectly neutral, but on your screen it's a little bit warm, you need to cool it down. And by cooling it down, I mean increase the white point. If it was 6,000, move it over to 6,500 like it was supposed to be. Okay? If it's 7,000, then move it down to 6,500. In other words, if it appears a little bit bluish on your screen compared to your nice neutral printed result, then you need to warm up your white point. That's it. White point just basically means your white balance, your overall white balance. Once you do this, and you got a match, then you have reached that magical condition where now whatever you edit will be displayed as it truly is. Because the last thing you want to do is to edit something till it looks okay on your monitor, and then basically you've changed the image. Maybe it was perfect to begin with, but it didn't look quite perfect on your monitor that was not calibrated, and you went ahead and adjusted it until it looked good, but now you really shifted it. And so the printer, which can produce by itself a perfect result of that image, is going to basically translate those values and give you an image that has a color cast, maybe too light, maybe too dark. Okay? It's not going to match your monitor because your monitor has to be made to match this. That's it. That's what a lot of people do not get. Your monitor has to match this. Period. All right. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and my client today was extremely happy. He said it was the best hour he spent. Actually, we spent a little longer than an hour because we were chit-chatting a bit more. Anyway, the money he spent was well spent. And so he is very happy, and I'm very happy that I was able to help him. So anyway, just follow these simple steps. Certify your printer from the get-go. Okay, don't wait until later after you've been printing for a month and pulling your hair out trying to make a good print. Okay, and every time you try, it's a little bit different because of inconsistencies in your workflow. So again, do this, then set your printer driver, especially on a Canon, to ICM and even on an Epson as well. And you will be printing through the driver for the first few months before you start getting into custom profiling and working with custom profiles. You don't want to get too confused at this point. So kind of throttle down your learning curve. In other words, take it easy at first and stick to maybe 1 or 2 papers, no more, from that manufacturer so that you have a match. In other words, Epson printers love Epson papers. Canon printers, on the other hand, love Canon papers. So learn and master the process so that you can print with your eyes closed, literally. And you know that what you edited and you sent to the printer is going to print correctly, and it's going to match 98% of what you see on your monitor. Also, keep in mind the monitors are backlit, and this is viewed by reflective light. Guess who's going to be brighter? It's going to have more pop and more brilliance. The monitor, the screen, never the print. Okay? So that's something that you have to keep in mind and kind of learn to accept. All right. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to learn? Please let me know in the comments below. We'll go ahead and add this to the basic printing playlist. You can go back and binge watch if you would like, and that will take you through every single step that you need to know for basic printing of your images at home. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like always. Happy printing. Happy Veterans Day. Bye-bye.